Matthew, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us here at WECA 2019. How's it going so far?
It's been a very busy day and a very interesting day, and there's a real sense that the oil and gas industry has changed quite a lot in the last year or two, particularly around this environment, social and governance topic.
Absolutely. Now, you spoke on a panel that covered that earlier today. How did that go?
It was very interesting. We had a couple of industry production people. We had a couple of financial people, and I was there as the token technology supplier on the end. And so they were discussing the challenge of net zero greenhouse gas and also reducing the carbon intensity of production. And then they all looked at me and said, what can Siemens offer the industry to help make the change?
Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about that. Where do Siemens see the change coming in?
Well, we see it massively right across our business. We are an energy business, so we're, as well as being in the oil and gas sector, we're also in the power sector and the electricity transmission sector. And everywhere we look, people are coming to climate change and recognizing that the only end game for that has to be net zero. And when people were talking about reducing or slightly cleaning up, it allowed people to say, I'm in the 20% that doesn't have to do that. Whereas once you set the target net zero, there's nowhere to hide, and every industry has to decide what it's going to do to rise to the challenge.
And I think as these deadlines are approaching ever faster and ever sooner, I think we're all coming to realize that change is inevitable, and it's all about tackling those challenges together, I suppose. So what were some of the comments or highlights for you from that panel? Overall positive?
Yes, very, very positive. It was interesting, there was an audience survey, and by the end of the panel, something towards 60% of the audience felt that environmental, social and governance was a really fundamental thing for the future of their business, a sort of license to operate. But I'm interested that the other 40% didn't yet feel that, because certainly all of the other industries that I'm involved with, that it's tackling climate change is just part of what you have to do in business now.
So what is the focus for Siemens Gas and Power in 2020?
Okay, well, chemical fuels are really vital to the way we run the modern world, and today the chemical fuels are hydrocarbons. We're not going to do away with chemical fuels. We need to find cleaner versions of them, and one of the ways of doing that is to take your hydrocarbon, take the carbon dioxide out of it and bury that, and you're left with the hydrogen. So we're talking to a lot of people about making and using hydrogen, and also things that will transport hydrogen around the world, like ammonia as hydrogen carriers. And to make hydrogen from a fossil fuel, you need to get involved in carbon capture and storage. So really those two things, hydrogen, carbon capture and storage, are the main focus of attention at the moment.
So how will Siemens' new energy company be positioning itself within the energy transition?
So we're separating out from the rest of Siemens our energy company, and it's going to be called Siemens Energy. Sometimes the simplest name is the best. The reason for doing that is to give us focus. We're not getting confused with what's happening in healthcare or happening in industry, but we are a company that operates right the way from end to end across the energy chain. So we are involved in all aspects of oil and gas, but also, as I said, the power industry and energy conversion. So I spend a lot of time looking at how do you decarbonise heat and transport, which are all related, because we have to decarbonise the whole economy. A lot of the technologies we work on actually couple those sectors together. So you can take offshore wind and you can make hydrogen in an electrolyser, and then you can turn that hydrogen into ammonia, and you can burn it in a gas turbine to power a remote village somewhere that's off the grid. So all of these things are starting to couple together in new and interesting ways.
And how is this company going to be doing that, playing that role within the decarbonisation of the industry?
Well, the two words that spring to mind are leadership and partnership. You need to think about what the purpose of your business is for, and our purpose I would summarise as bringing energy to people. And we've always done that, now we need to do that cleanly. But if that's the purpose, we need to lead the energy transition, not just sit and wait for it to happen to us, but actually think about, well, what can we do to move this forward to help save the planet? So we want to be out there as a leader. So for example, we built our ammonia demonstrator here in the UK. It's just a small demonstration, but we take renewable energy, a wind turbine, we take air and water, we separate out hydrogen and nitrogen, we put them together to make ammonia, and then we put it into a small gas engine to make electricity. So we've proved the end-to-end process, renewable energy, air and water, a chemical energy store, and then making electricity from it. And we're going to need to do things like that globally on massive, massive, massive scale. So sometimes you have to do a bit of pioneering and demonstrate to people what's possible to get the sort of the excitement and the interest and the political support.
And so where will the partnership come in with the new company and the industry itself?
The energy transition is enormous. We need to do terawatt hours of new clean energy. And that means doing some big things. And so, for example, if you want to run one of our large gas turbines that runs a power station on hydrogen, you need about 50 tons of hydrogen every hour. Now, last year we were testing one of our smaller gas turbines, and we took every tube trailer of hydrogen that was available in Scandinavia, and the test lasted 20 minutes. So if you're going to build a new economy that runs on clean fuels, you have to get the fuel supply alongside the power generation. You can only do that in a partnership. We're talking to companies like Equinor and Drax and various others about how we build both power stations that can run on hydrogen and the whole supply chain to go with it.
You said earlier how you've noticed that at WECA, the conversation is, or the atmosphere perhaps, is really changing, and there does seem to be more of a will and an enthusiasm to move towards the goals that we have for the future. I think that leadership and partnership is such a great way to kind of talk about that, because it is through partnership and collaboration that together as an industry we're going to meet these goals. Do you think that events like WECA help that process forward?
I think they do. They provide not just the proximity for people to bump into each other, but it's sort of a temperature check of the industry. And it was notable, some of the conversations I had over lunch today, that people had heard the earlier sessions in the day and were already sort of modifying their view and thinking about what their company might do differently and who they might do it with. So I think bringing people together like this, particularly when it's a sort of an annual thing and you can sense the industry changing, is a really powerful thing.
Every year you can see that little movement, and I mean, transitions by their nature are slow,
yeah.
But it is going to take collaboration, I think, to get us to that point.
I think it is, and it also, if you've spent your whole career pumping hydrocarbons out of the ground and then burning them, when you hear about climate change, it sounds like a threat. You need to have a different mindset. You need to think about what your purpose in life is, and if your purpose is pumping oil, it is a threat. If your purpose is providing energy for people, then that's a much more positive and exciting thing to do. And the extra engineering and commercial challenge we now have is we've just got to do that in a cleaner way. And so it's not an attack on your fundamental being, it's just here's the extra constraint we now need to manage. We need to do it in a clean way. And I think the oil and gas industry, if the people within it can make that sort of emotional, mental shift, can be very successful at leading the transition for the rest of the world.
I like that. I was thinking, because I did want to ask you, you know, what role the oil and gas industry will play within this transition, but I think you just said it. It's about, you know, repositioning the mindset of the industry, I guess.
Yeah, and that's what an event like this is perfect for doing.
Absolutely. Matthew, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.